The shadow of Jeffrey Epstein continues to lengthen, casting a dark and unsettling light on sectors far beyond the worlds of finance and politics he was known to inhabit. Recently unearthed documents, emerging years after his death in 2019, have peeled back another layer of his complex and disturbing network, revealing a significant and surprisingly early involvement in the world of cryptocurrency. These files show that long after his 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor, a fact that should have rendered him toxic in reputable circles, Epstein was actively cultivating relationships and channeling funds into the nascent digital currency space. His interest was far from a passing curiosity. It was a calculated and strategic entry into what he likely saw as the next great financial frontier. This foray was not a late-stage attempt to jump on a bandwagon. The records indicate Epstein began making his moves around 2014, a formative period when Bitcoin and the broader crypto ecosystem were still largely confined to a niche community of technologists and early adopters. He wasn't just observing from the sidelines. He was investing in the foundational pillars of the industry. His portfolio included stakes in companies that have since become household names, demonstrating a keen eye for identifying the potential winners in a volatile and unproven market. The documents paint a clear picture of a man methodically building a new sphere of influence, leveraging his wealth to secure a foothold in the technology of the future. These revelations force a difficult reckoning, illustrating how Epstein managed to penetrate yet another influential and emerging sector despite his publicly known criminal history. His ability to access and fund these pioneering companies underscores the unnerving reach of his network and the ease with which money can sometimes wash away the stain of past transgressions. It was a period when the crypto industry was just beginning its journey toward mainstream acceptance, and Epstein positioned himself right at the heart of that growth. His involvement was not just financial, but also deeply embedded within the social and technological fabric of the industry's early days. The story emerging from these files is one of a convicted felon successfully navigating and exploiting the opportunities within a burgeoning, unregulated landscape. He was not merely a passive investor, but an active participant, engaging with the very people who were building the infrastructure of this new digital economy. This early and deliberate engagement allowed him to plant seeds that would later blossom into significant financial holdings, all while operating from the shadows of his tarnished reputation. The details of these connections provide a crucial, if unsettling, piece of the puzzle in understanding the full scope of Jeffrey Epstein's operations. Jeffrey Epstein did not navigate the complex and insular world of early cryptocurrency on his own. His entry was facilitated by a handful of key figures, established insiders who served as his guides and connectors. One of the most prominent names to surface in the documents is Brock Pierce, a well-known crypto evangelist and former child actor. Pierce reportedly acted as a key advisor to Epstein, using his deep industry knowledge to steer Epstein's investment decisions. He is said to have helped broker some of the deals, effectively opening the door for Epstein to gain access and a degree of credibility within a community that was often skeptical of outsiders from traditional finance. Another pivotal connection came through Joichi "Joy" Ito, who at the time was the esteemed director of the MIT Media Lab. Ito managed a venture fund that Epstein used to invest in Blockstream, a critical Bitcoin technology firm. This relationship was multifaceted. Epstein was also a significant donor to the Media Lab, providing funds that supported some of its cryptocurrency initiatives. This link showcases Epstein's classic strategy, using his associations with respected academic institutions and their leaders to legitimize his activities and gain entry into influential technology circles. Ito's role, which he later expressed deep regret over, was instrumental in embedding Epstein within the crypto ecosystem. The documents further reveal direct lines of communication between Epstein and the founders of the companies he was backing. He was in contact with figures like Adam Back, the CEO of Blockstream, and Austin Hill, another key player in the space. These interactions suggest that Epstein was more than just a name on a list of investors. He was an engaged party, receiving first-hand information and insights from the very architects of the technology. This network of high-level connections provided him with an invaluable advantage, allowing him to more effectively navigate the risks and opportunities of the emerging crypto landscape and solidify his position within its inner workings. Ultimately, it was this web of well-connected individuals that provided Epstein with the access he sought. Each figure, whether a crypto pioneer like Pierce or an academic leader like Ito, served as a node in his expanding network. They lent their credibility, expertise, and connections, knowingly or not, to a man whose reputation should have been a red flag. These relationships were the currency Epstein used to buy his way into the exclusive club of early crypto investors, demonstrating once again his remarkable ability to leverage influential people to further his own financial and social ambitions, even from the margins of polite society. While Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in the crypto space was strategically significant, the precise scale of his investments reveals a more nuanced picture of his influence. One of his most notable investments was in Coinbase, which has since grown into one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges. In 2014, he invested approximately $3 million, making him an early backer of the platform. However, it is crucial to note that this substantial sum represented less than 1% of Coinbase's total equity at that stage of its funding. This detail suggests that while his financial contribution was far from trivial, it did not grant him a controlling interest or a decisive say in the company's direction. Epstein's investment in Blockstream, a company focused on developing the core technology behind Bitcoin, followed a different, more indirect path. He channeled money into the firm through a venture fund managed by Joi Ito of the MIT Media Lab. This method of using intermediaries and established funds was a common tactic for Epstein, allowing him to gain a foothold in promising tech companies without necessarily having his name directly on the cap table. While Ito later divested from the fund due to growing concerns, the initial investment highlights Epstein's strategy of using trusted third parties to expand his portfolio and influence within the burgeoning crypto sector. Beyond his stakes in specific companies, the newly released files suggest that Epstein was also involved in funding Bitcoin's development more broadly. This indicates his interest may have transcended simple profit-seeking and extended to supporting the foundational infrastructure of the cryptocurrency ecosystem itself. The exact dollar amounts dedicated to this broader support remain less clear, but his willingness to finance the core technology demonstrates a deeper level of engagement. He was not just betting on individual horses in the race, he was investing in the racetrack itself, recognizing the long-term potential of the entire system. In aggregate, Epstein's crypto investments were significant enough to mark him as a serious and early player, yet they were often structured to be a small part of a larger funding pool. This approach allowed him to diversify his risk, while still reaping the benefits of the industry's explosive growth. He was a notable financial presence, but not a kingmaker. His influence was less about the sheer size of his checks, and more about his ability to get into the deals in the first place, leveraging his network to secure a piece of the future that many others were still struggling to understand. In the wake of the revelations detailing Jeffrey Epstein's connections to cryptocurrency, the industry's response has been conspicuously quiet and largely dismissive. Many insiders and leading voices have worked to downplay the significance of his financial contributions, framing them as minor and inconsequential to the sector's overall trajectory. Representatives from companies like Coinbase and Blockstream have been quick to point out that they have not been accused of any wrongdoing, and that Epstein was one of many early investors. The prevailing sentiment appears to be that his involvement was that of a peripheral financier, not a central influential figure whose legacy should taint the entire industry. Adding to this narrative of dismissal, some have even suggested that Epstein was, in fact, a skeptical investor who never fully grasped the revolutionary potential of cryptocurrency. This line of reasoning posits that he likely sold his holdings early, missing out on the massive profits that came with the industry's later boom. By painting him as an unsuccessful or short-sighted participant, this perspective seeks to create distance between the crypto world and his toxic legacy. It is a way of saying he was among us, but he was not one of us, thereby minimizing the reputational damage caused by the association with his name. This collective shrugging of shoulders reflects a powerful desire within the crypto community to protect its image and maintain the status quo. The culture is one that prizes forward-looking innovation and market performance above all else, leaving little appetite for dredging up a problematic past. Especially when it involves such a reviled public figure, the focus remains steadfastly on the future, on the next technological breakthrough, the next bull run, and the next wave of adoption. In this context, Epstein's early investments are treated as little more than a historical footnote, irrelevant to the industry's current state or future ambitions. Ultimately, the muted reaction is a form of self-preservation. Acknowledging a deeper connection to Epstein would invite uncomfortable questions and external scrutiny that the fiercely independent crypto world has long sought to avoid. By collectively agreeing that his role was minimal and his influence negligible, the industry can effectively close the book on this chapter and move on. The prevailing attitude seems to be that as long as the code is clean and the markets are moving, the sins of an early investor from a bygone era are best left buried and forgotten. Despite the broader industry's attempt to, sweep the matter under the rug, a few dissenting voices have emerged, demanding accountability for the connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Luke Dashter, a longtime Bitcoin Core developer, has been particularly outspoken, calling for the resignations of individuals and leaders at companies with documented ties to the disgraced financier. These calls, while not widespread, highlight a growing ethical schism within the cryptocurrency community. It's a divide between those who believe in moving forward at all costs and those who argue that confronting and addressing past associations is, essential for the industry's long-term integrity and moral standing. However, most industry analysts and insiders remain skeptical that these calls for accountability will lead to any significant fallout. The consensus is that the major companies involved, including Coinbase, are unlikely to suffer any lasting damage. The primary defense is that Epstein's investments were made years ago, constituted a very small fraction of the company's overall funding, and involved no evidence of illegal activity related to the investments themselves. The market's relentless focus on present performance and future potential is expected to easily overshadow these historical revelations, insulating the companies from any meaningful reputational or financial harm. Similarly, it is highly improbable that these disclosures will change the behavior of the average retail consumer. The crypto market is often defined by a pragmatic, profit-driven mindset, with less emphasis placed on the ethical backgrounds of a platform's early backers. For most users, the primary concerns are transaction speed, security, and the potential for financial gain. As long as an exchange like Coinbase continues to operate efficiently and provide value, the vast majority of its customers are not expected to abandon the platform over details about a controversial investor from the company's distant past. The convenience of the present tends to outweigh the complexities of history. The potential for any real fallout, therefore, seems minimal. The decentralized and often libertarian ethos of the crypto world does not lend itself to centralized moral crusades or industry-wide reckonings. While the whispers for accountability persist, they are largely drowned out by the noise of the market and the relentless push for innovation. The episode is more likely to be remembered as an uncomfortable fact than a catalyst for meaningful change, a testament to the industry's ability to compartmentalize its past in favor of its future. Jeffrey Epstein's pathway into the heart of the cryptocurrency world was paved not just with money, but with the prestige of one of the world's leading academic institutions, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. His relationship with the university was deeply intertwined with his crypto ambitions. Epstein made substantial, and often concealed, donations to the MIT Media Lab, which was a hub of technological innovation, then under the direction of Joi Ito. These funds were instrumental in launching and sustaining key cryptocurrency research initiatives at the lab, effectively making Epstein a benefactor of the very ecosystem he sought to invest in. This philanthropic strategy was, honestly, a masterclass in influence peddling. By funding cutting-edge research at a respected institution, Epstein burnished his public image, casting himself as a forward-thinking supporter of science and technology. More importantly, it gave him unparalleled access. His donations allowed him to position himself at the critical intersection of academia and emerging tech, creating a symbiotic relationship where his financial contributions cultivated the environment from which his investment opportunities would sprout. He wasn't just investing in crypto, he was helping to fund the intellectual greenhouse where it was being nurtured. The environment at the MIT Media Lab, fueled in part by Epstein's money, became a nexus for innovation in digital currencies. It was a place where the brightest minds in the field gathered, and Epstein's connection to it, via his relationship with Ito, gave him a coveted seat at the table. This proximity to the intellectual core of the crypto movement was arguably more valuable than his direct investments. It provided him with insights, credibility, and connections that money alone could not buy, allowing him to operate not as an outsider, but as a patron with inside knowledge. Ultimately, this carefully cultivated relationship imploded into a major scandal for MIT. The revelation of the extent of Ito's ties to Epstein, and the efforts made to conceal the donations, led to Ito's resignation and a period of intense soul-searching at the university. The controversy laid bare the ethical compromises that had been made, exposing how Epstein had skillfully used his wealth to launder his reputation and gain legitimacy within the halls of academia. This legitimacy, in turn, was the key that unlocked the door to the exclusive world of early-stage cryptocurrency investment. Speculating on Jeffrey Epstein's motivations for delving into cryptocurrency reveals a confluence of his known characteristics: a sharp eye for financial opportunity and a penchant for operating in the shadows. One of the most compelling theories is that he was drawn to the industry's anarchic, unregulated nature during its formative years. The world of early crypto was a digital Wild West, defined by a decentralized ethos and a lack of the traditional oversight that governed Wall Street. For a man looking to operate outside of conventional financial systems and away from prying eyes, this environment would have been exceptionally appealing. The inherent features of cryptocurrency, such as the potential for anonymity and pseudonymity, likely held a special allure. For someone whose public life was marred by a criminal conviction and intense scrutiny, the ability to move assets and make investments with a degree of privacy would have been a powerful incentive. This new financial frontier offered a space where his past was less of a liability and his money could work for him without the baggage of his name. It was a realm where influence could be wielded more discreetly, far from the judgment of the traditional financial world that had, at least publicly, ostracized him. Beyond the appeal of discretion, the simple and overwhelming potential for profit cannot be overlooked. Epstein was, above all, a shrewd financier with a documented history of identifying and capitalizing on emerging trends. In the early 2010s, he clearly recognized the explosive growth potential of the digital currency market. By getting in on the ground floor and investing in foundational companies like Coinbase and core technologies like Bitcoin, he was making a calculated bet on the future. His interest was a clear-eyed financial strategy, aimed at reaping massive rewards from the next great technological wave, much like his earlier ventures in other sectors. Ultimately, Epstein's engagement with crypto appears to be a perfect synthesis of his primary drivers: financial opportunism and a deep-seated desire to operate in an unregulated frontier. The industry's disruptive ideology and its distance from established gatekeepers aligned perfectly with his personal and financial objectives. By leveraging his immense wealth and existing network, he successfully infiltrated this new sector, seeking not only monumental profits, but also a sphere of influence that was less constrained by his toxic public profile and criminal record. It was, for him, a new and promising world to conquer. The discovery of Jeffrey Epstein's deep ties to the cryptocurrency world should not be viewed as an isolated anomaly. Instead, it fits perfectly within the broader disturbing pattern of his life's work, a relentless campaign to embed himself within the most powerful and influential sectors of society. His interest in crypto was a natural extension of his well-documented strategy to build and maintain connections with elite figures across global finance, national politics, cutting-edge science, and emerging technology. It was another chess move in his long game of acquiring influence, proving that even a public conviction could not stop him from expanding his network into new and promising fields. This pattern was about more than just making money. It was about securing relevance and access. Epstein methodically cultivated a mystique as a brilliant, if eccentric, financier with an uncanny ability to spot the future. Whether it was through his mysterious hedge fund, his private island, or his donations to top scientific institutions, every action was designed to draw the powerful and the brilliant into his orbit. His venture into cryptocurrency was simply the next logical step, an attempt to conquer the new digital frontier just as he had sought to command influence in the old worlds of Wall Street and Washington. The The released documents also offer other telling, if unrelated, glimpses into the social dynamics of Epstein's network. In one email exchange with Epstein, publicist Peggy Siegel casually described Michael Saylor, another prominent Bitcoin advocate, as a complete creep. While this comment does not allege any wrongdoing on Saylor's part, it is illustrative of the candid and often gossipy nature of the correspondence within Epstein's circle. It provides a small window into the insular world of the elites he surrounded himself with, where reputations were discussed and social capital was traded as freely as any other commodity. In this wider context, the story of Epstein's crypto connections is a case study in his methods. It demonstrates his consistent ability to identify emerging power structures and use his wealth and connections to gain entry. From high finance to high tech, from academia to the decentralized world of digital currency, he was always looking for the next nexus of influence. These revelations confirm that even after his public fall from grace, Epstein's project of network building continued unabated, leaving behind a complex and troubling legacy that continues to unravel with each new disclosure. The revelations of Jeffrey Epstein's early and calculated entry into the world of cryptocurrency serve as a powerful and chilling postscript to his life. They confirm that his web of influence was even more expansive and forward-looking than previously understood, extending into the very foundations of the 21st century digital economy. These findings are not merely historical footnotes, they are a critical part of his story, illustrating his unceasing drive to secure power and profit by positioning himself at the vanguard of technological and financial innovation. The crypto world, with its promise of disruption and its initial lack of oversight, was the perfect environment for his methods to flourish. What these connections ultimately reveal is the profound power of money and elite networks to bypass moral and even legal barriers. Despite his status as a convicted sex offender, Epstein was able to gain access to the inner sanctums of a new and exclusive industry. He did so by leveraging his immense wealth and his carefully cultivated relationships with influential gatekeepers in academia and technology. This fact forces an uncomfortable reckoning not only for the individuals who facilitated his entry, but for an entire industry that, in its early days, may have prioritized growth and capital over ethical scrutiny. The story also serves as a cautionary tale about the nature of influence in the modern age. Epstein's strategy was not simply to invest, but to become part of the very fabric of the communities he targeted. By funding research at MIT, he helped shape the intellectual climate around cryptocurrency, which in turn created the very investment opportunities he would later seize. This symbiotic approach demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of how power is built and maintained, not just through direct control, but through subtle and pervasive influence that blurs the lines between philanthropy, investment, and manipulation. As more details about his life continue to emerge, the legacy of Jeffrey Epstein becomes increasingly complex and damning. His foray into cryptocurrency is a testament to his adaptability and his relentless pursuit of influence in every corner of the modern world. It underscores how his shadow looms large over industries that pride themselves on being progressive and forward-thinking, forcing them to confront a past they would much rather forget. The story is far from over, and these connections are a stark reminder that the full extent of his network and the compromises made by those within it may not be known for years to come.